I'm going to talk to you today about when something goes wrong, you have an interaction or maybe an event that just doesn't go well, and you find yourself spinning in your thoughts. Your brain just will not stop. So, I'm going to teach you what to do in that scenario. I'm Missy Hughes. I'm a productivity coach, and I help you find what's important to you so that you can get things done. So use the link in the comments to sign up for my weekly tips on how to simply and productively get things done. So something's happened. Maybe it's something in work, maybe it's something in a relationship that you have, and it doesn't go well, right? That happens. It happens all the time. It happens to all of us. It doesn't mean that we're terrible people. It means things go wrong. And it feels kind of like garbage when it does. And what happens is your brain tells you, this is terrible. I'm terrible. The other person's terrible. And this is all just garbage. Run. But what happens when it says that is it's stressful. And so you find yourself just repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating the same thoughts. You're spinning, and what your brain tells you is, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And when you think, I don't know what to do, your brain doesn't find what to do. And that then therefore you keep spinning. So our brains operate on the motivation of three things. We want to seek pleasure, we want to avoid pain, and we want efficiency. So efficiency means that if you repeat whatever didn't kill you. So if you survived, it was a win. And if you survived, we should repeat it. But that doesn't always feel great, does it? That does not always work for us. It's not always the best thing for our well being, for the best thing for our happiness, the best thing for creating solutions. So, I want to teach you today how to spend less time worrying and spinning, less time sort of using all of your energy to circle the drain. And I'm going to teach you how to get out of that faster. So, when you have this event and you want to get out of repetition, but your brain sort of wants to keep you in repetition, right? Your brain tells you, I don't know what to do. This just all feels terrible. What you want to do is kind of just go get in a hole, but the hole's just full of these dark thoughts. I find that when something goes wrong for me, I will wake up at 2 in the morning and I'll just start thinking about it. And I'll also, instead of doing something that I want to do creatively, I'll start thinking about it. And while I'm doing something else, I'll start thinking about it. And I find myself interrupting myself in my day thinking about this problem. But the problem with the way we think when we feel stressed is it's usually really broad. What we're thinking is that didn't go well. That didn't go well. We have these like, oh, it didn't go well. And then we have an emotion. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's frustration, maybe it's shame. But when we keep that when we keep that cycle going, the emotions also keep the thoughts, and the thoughts keep the emotions. You're in that problem. So step one is your brain tells you, I don't know. What you're going to tell it is, what do we know? What are the facts of the situation? Not that it was terrible, but what are the facts? What happened? And I encourage you to write these things down, because once you get it out on paper, you can kind of just have a look at it. And the act of actually writing can be very calming. So, what are the facts of the situation? What actually happened? What are all those thoughts that you're having? Write them down. Look at them exactly on paper. And some of them will feel outrageous when you see them written down. And some of them you'll be like, yeah, exactly. And what are you feeling? What are the emotions? What name them? Your emotions will like scream at you like a toddler looking for attention until you say, "Oh, I see you. That's frustration, that's anger. Makes sense that I'm feeling that." So, step number 2, you've just said what I know. Step 2 is what went well. Now, you're going to say nothing went well. That's why I'm thinking about this dang thing and worrying about it, right? But when you give your brain the task of finding some little tiny thing that was positive, you break the cycle. You break the rhythm of repetition. Oh, brain, I need you to go look for something. I've lost my socks. Go find my socks. Right. And now instead of thinking, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do is go find something positive. Just go find anything. Now, I want to be clear with you right now. I'm not asking you to put a silver lining on this situation. I'm simply asking to look for one little thing that you can attach to that isn't horrible. It will break you out of the cycle. It will calm your mind. It will give you something tactile to look for. So it also opens your creativity. And this is why it's the most important part. This is why you can't skip it. Because when you're very stressed, when you're overwhelmed, your creativity is shut down. There's no creativity there. There's fear, there's a lot of stuff that says do what you've done before, don't look for something new. So it's not a silver lining, it's actually a calming tactic. Now, if you find yourself in the place where you're like, there's nothing positive, there's nothing positive, there's nothing positive, go back to what else you know. What do you know? What was positive going on before this happened? You can go to the next thing, back it up to the next one little thing that went well. Find something. Step 3 is name exactly where things went wrong. What exactly happened? Were there things piling up on you where you were like, this thing didn't go well, this thing didn't go well, and then this thing didn't go well, and now I reacted to all of them? Was it this was said and then this person maybe didn't misinterpreted it, or it went wrong when this was said, it went wrong, or when I heard this, it went wrong, or right, be specific, not just the whole thing is garbage, but what specifically, when did it go wrong? um Step number 4, what is in your control? So here's where you get to find a little bit of ownership. Here's where you get to say, okay, I can't control other people. I can't control the words they say. I can't control the actions they take. I can't control how they show up in the world that I share with them. But what I can do is I can control how I show up. I can control how I take care of myself. I can control the words that I say and the actions that I take. So, what's in your control and what's not in your control? The other humans are not in your control. As much as we want to control them, they're not in our control. I want to be specific that when we are raising children, we do have an obligation to guide them, but ultimately we still can't control them, which is why we get so frustrated a lot of the time. So be specific, even if you're like, oh, but it is my job to control the situation. It is your job to guide this situation And depending on how small or how grown your child is, that's a deeper subject. Um, but again, the words that you say, the actions that you take, the way, the tone in which you take them, all of these are in your control. The other person actually isn't. Um, so number 5 is, what action can you take differently? Given the opportunity to do this situation again, what would you do differently? What's one little thing that you can say, maybe I would have done this differently, or maybe I would have set this up a little bit better or differently. Maybe I would follow up in some way. What is the one little thing? And maybe it's many, but maybe it's just one. What are the things that you can do differently? So just to recap, step 1 is identify what you know. What are the facts of the circumstance? What are you thinking about it? How are you feeling? What do you know? Be specific. Step number 2, what went well? Find anything that opens up your creative brain to start looking for solutions. Step 3 is what specifically didn't go well. Be very factual, very clear, very detailed in this part, because your brain wants to go vague. It wants to go blanket situation. This is terrible. But when you get specific, you break out of that vague and circling cycle. What's in your control and what's not, and then what action can you take differently? So, what we're doing in these steps is we're getting out of judgment. This is wrong. Gah, gah, gah. I'm wrong. I did it wrong. I'm a terrible person. They did it wrong. They're terrible. They're a terrible person. We're getting out of judgment, because what judgment does is it blames, it creates victims, it releases ownership. There's like, if somebody else is, if it's their fault, then I don't have any control. They have all of my power. So when I get to say, what do I control? What do I own? Then I get to see what's in my power. Then, wow, then I'm this empowered person that really has the position to make change. So when you're spinning, the biggest thing to do is to get specific, because your brain just wants to let it roll. Your survival brain doesn't care if you're pleased or displeased. It cares if you're dying or not. And so if you're just frustrated, okay, that's all right. But for us, we have more than just our survival going on. We want to thrive. We want to be happy. We want to be we want to create these situations that are working for us. So this is how we get there. We get out of judgment, where we have zero ownership. We get into evaluation, where we really have a ton of power. And then we create small changes that we can do differently. See you next week.